Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Mindful Play Summit. I'm your host, Crystal Jensen, and today we have the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Suzy Lederer, PhD. She's a professor of speech language pathology at Adelphi University, Long Island, New York. She's a national recognized expert in early language and literacy development and disorders. Dr. Suzy's children's books designed to help children learn to talk and play and are based on decades of peer-reviewed research to practice work. Dr. Suzy integrates literacy with mindfulness and yoga to enhance shared book reading. She is forthcoming author of the new children's book, If You're Peaceful and You Know It, a breathing book for kids. Thanks so much for watching. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We have Dr. Suzy Lederer today, and I'm so excited to sit down and connect with you. Thank you for spending time coming on and speaking with our listeners here today.
I'm so excited to be here to share all about shared book reading and mindfulness.
Beautiful. So if you could just let our listeners know a little bit about yourself and how you got into writing these beautiful books.
So I have two parallel stories. My personal story is that I was raised by a mom who practiced yoga in the 60s with an Indian guru whose name was Majumdar. And Majumdar made a record. I know we don't have records anymore, but he made a record of a body scan meditation. So as a kid, when I couldn't sleep, my mom played the body scan meditation for us, and Majumdar helped us go to sleep. Um, she was very ahead of her time. I always said she would have been better off born as a flower child instead of a 50s housewife, but she was very cool. So then she's encouraging me my whole teen years, practice yoga. And I'm like, nah, no. And finally I broke down in my 20s and I said, okay, I'll try it. And of course, as we all know, we get hooked from day one. And so I've been practicing yoga ever since, many decades. And as I deepened my yoga practice, which started as a physical practice like many of us, I started to read more yogic philosophy and Buddhist philosophy, and really incorporating it more into my life and making it more a part of my life in a bigger way, the way we're using mindfulness now. That wasn't really even a term then. So that's my personal story. And then my professional story is that I'm a speech language pathologist by profession. I am also a professor in the Department of Communication Sciences and Disorders at Adelphi University on Long Island in New York. And my expertise is early child language development and literacy development. So I help kids who are late to talk say their first words and put them together to make sentences, and then make sentences into stories and make stories into books, right? And so my entire career has been focused around using books to help kids achieve these early language and literacy goals. Ask any of my students who have graduated with me, they'll say all therapy starts with a book, with a kid's book. So that's like my professional life, my personal life. They're moving in parallel. And then, everybody gets that moment in time. And this moment was, I was working on a grant project that had to do with nurturing the whole child, helping the whole child flourish. And I pitched to the university that I could use some of my grant money to go get trained as a kids yoga instructor. And this was a really long time ago. Jody Cometer, who was the first to open a kids-only yoga studio in New York City, did the training, and she was a special educator. So she and I resonated. And of course, she was using books. She taught us to use books to frame a kid's yoga lesson. And I'm like, okay, now my two lives are coming together here. And I come back to the university, and we have an early learning center on campus. And I go and I say, I want to teach yoga here. And they're like, sure, come on, So of course I taught what I called storybook yoga. I always used a book because, remember, language and literacy are my thing. And but but kind of like where the twist comes in was at the same time I was running Jumpstart literacy groups for kids who had language problems and other kids. So, I'm running these two groups that are based on books, and I'm saying, these two need to be integrated. And that was really kind of, I went from the, like, let's read a book and let's talk about it and let's write our own story and let's talk about the alphabet and letters and all of that kind of academic jumpstart literacy. And then this mindful, social, emotional kind of yoga and storybooks. And I said, okay, we got it. Like peanut butter and jelly, or like Reese's peanut butter cups. We got to mix the peanut butter and the chocolate here, And so that's it. I said, they can't be separate. They need to be together.
Beautiful. I love how you take your passion and your learning and combining your personal and, all of it together to be this beautiful creation. So thank you for sharing your journey and your story. I want to tap in a little bit more around, when you say you're doing your book reading with your mindfulness and just your philosophy around that.
Okay. So we know that all learning is based on the ability to pay attention. If I'm listening, I can be learning. If I'm not listening, I'm not learning. And the ability to control attention. So if I stop listening for a couple of minutes, I can start listening again. And, isn't that mindfulness? Isn't that the power of presence, right? So, I said, okay, if that's what we know about learning, and that learning takes being present, well, isn't shared book reading like one of the most beautiful present-centered practices there are? I mean, picture you're a mom, I'm a mom, snuggling up at night with a book under the covers with your child, or sitting in the rocking chair, or we're both teachers of young kids sitting right in that corner of the classroom on the carpet with your book, and the kids all anxiously waiting to hear what today's story is. Or even as a yoga teacher, all the kids are on their mat and you're on your mat with a book, so it's a very present centered, moment to moment practice, shared book reading. And so when we're engaged, when we're listening, we're engaged, we are immersed. And when we disengage, we don't even know what's going on in the story, truthfully, so it's our role as educators or as parents to help kids come back, right? And that's what mindfulness practice is, right? It's really about noticing when you've disappeared and having the skills to come back. And the more you practice mindfulness, the more you're able to bring yourself back. Initially a teacher might, remind the kids, look at the pictures, or listen, you're not listening, without stopping the story, just like a little hint. But ultimately, all the research tells us, right, that the more you practice mindfulness, the more you have this control over your own self-regulation.
I love that.
Me too.
Now you have the 4 R's. If you can kind of expand on what those look like for me and our listeners, that would be great.
Okay, so I'm saying, all right, so how do we actualize this? This is great to have a philosophy. Like, what do we do about it, right? So I have my 4 R's. Ready, read, review, reflect. Okay, so let's start with ready. Okay, in terms of getting kids ready for mindful shared book reading, I have 2 different principles that I'm trying to apply. One has to do with, how do I choose a book in the first place? So we all know that general principles tell us, choose a book that the kids are interested in, that they like, that you like, that may be aligned with something that's being taught in a classroom, if it's in a classroom setting, that has bright, beautiful pictures. I'm thinking of Todd Parr. I'm crazy for his pictures. That has engaging prose. like maybe it's repetitive, or maybe it's rhyme, or maybe it's got like a sing-song cadence, right? So we're going to do that anyway. So where does the mindfulness come in? Well, the mindfulness comes in when you say, I'm going to deliberately pick a book that teaches something I want to teach. And for me, it's 4 things: mindful listening, mindful looking, mindful moving, and mindful breathing, right? So let's say today my theme is going to be mindful looking. So I may choose a book that everybody knows, like Brown Bear, right? Everybody knows Brown Bear. So, and what does Brown Bear say? What do you see? I see, right? Brown bear, what do you see? I see a red bird looking at me. So the vocabulary of mindful looking and seeing is embedded in the book. So I consciously chose that book so that we can focus on mindful looking. Maybe Wacky Wednesday or Where's Waldo? That would be a good mindful looking book. Maybe like Harold, right? Everybody knows Harold, and you know, we're mindfully tracing, or if we're not so many in the group, we can actually be physically tracing the lines, right? Mindful looking. So I'm purposely picking that book. If I'm thinking about mindful listening, then I have Polar Bear, what do you hear, right? Or I might pick a book like We're Going on a Bear Hunt, right? Where there's a ton of sound effects. They sploosh and they splash and they thwack and they do all kinds of things as they're going over and under and through all their obstacles to find their bear. Books that have animal sounds, for example, my book, I Can Say That. This is a cow says moo, a cow says moo. Can you say that too? Moo, moo, moo. Again, moo, 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 right? So, you know, I'm thinking more consciously about, I'm not pulling a book off the shelf just because I love it, the kids love it, we've done it before, whatever. I'm thinking about these ideas. Mindful movement from head to toe, right? I am a buffalo and I can turn my head. Can you do that? I can do that. You know, or something more yogic, like my daddy is a pretzel, Baron Baptiste. You know, my mommy is an architect. We can do the triangle pose. Let's all do the triangle pose, right? Oh, and the last one is mindful breathing, right? So my favorite book is Scott Magoon's Breathe, which is about a mommy whale and a baby whale, right? And basically she's just reminding the baby whale, you're having the time of your life, but periodically you got to come up to the surface and breathe, right? I am currently writing a kids breathing book, everybody. I'm very excited about it. It's called If You're Peaceful and You Know It. And it is going to focus on emotional self-regulation. So if you're sad and you know it, you can breathe. If you're mad and you know it, you can breathe. And it's going to, you know, play on that. So again, you know, yeah, it's really, I'm excited. So that's one part of getting ready. The other part of getting ready, and you and I talked about this before we started, is getting ourselves ready and getting the kids ready, right? So I'm sure that everybody is listening has a glitter jar, and everybody has a chime, and everybody has a Hoberman sphere, right? So I'm not reinventing the wheel here. But what I'm saying that maybe is a slight twist is if my book is about mindful listening, then maybe today I'm going to choose the chime. Close your eyes. I'm going to play the chime. When you don't hear it anymore, raise your hand. You know, or if I'm going to be focusing on mindful seeing, maybe today we're going to use the glitter jar, right? I will say that Elmo does a great job in preparing us to mindfully breathe. He has a YouTube video that's free. Everybody go check out Elmo if you don't know about it. But Elmo also sings a song called Whole Body Listening, which I also use often before we get going. So Elmo sings, you know, Ears are hearing what you have to say. Eyes are watching what you do today. Mouth is closed and quiet too. Body is calm and facing you.
Yay.
So that's ready.
I love that. Thank you. And it's easy to follow. And I love how when you pick your little themes of the listening and the body movement and the seeing, you're using those senses. And I recognize in my own practice that children need that diversity of moving from each sensory to sensory, and they actually helps them ground in and connect as well. So I love that you kind of pick one and you emergent plan around it. And I mean, the resources are amazing out there, and I'm really excited about your new upcoming book. So we'll make sure that all of our listeners, if you're following us through the Mindful Play community, when that's up and available, we'll be posting it in there as well. So a great resource, and thank you for that beautiful creation. And I love Elmo. Growing up, he was like,
love Elmo.
he was my fan. The red fuzzy. I even Tickle Me Elmo. I was the child that was told my parents I want that, and they lined up way back when for that. And I was actually in my late teens, almost early 20s, but I still wanted it.
Had to have it. I'm obsessed with Elmo too. Yeah, if I could write Elmo's lines, I'd be the happiest person on the planet, but not right now, or maybe not ever. So instead, I'm writing other things.
I love that. We'll keep on writing. And I know today there's a couple of things I wanted to mention. So we will have links where all of our listeners can find you. There's going to be a resource link as well. And we're going to raffle off one of your, not the new book, because it's not quite ready yet, but one of your older books. I can say that. So those of you that are listening, I'm going to post the email of where you can send in your raffle draw entry. So basically the subject line is going to say, I can say that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take all the entries, and at the end of the summit, we're going to pull off of a raffle. Beautiful giveaway. Thank you so much, Dr. Suzy. And I just wanted to take a moment and see if you had any share regarding your new book that's coming out. Do you have a couple pages that you're able to share with us today?
Unfortunately, we are still interviewing illustrators, so I don't, but there will be a link on the Dynamic Resources website that the book is forthcoming, and as soon as we have a picture to post with that, we will. I just wanted to just tell you guys who are joining us, the other two R's, the other three R's, I don't want to leave you hanging. So, once you've chosen the book and you've gotten the kids ready, obviously your goal of reading is to gain and maintain attention, right? And so again, all the general shared book reading principles apply. We're going to read enthusiastically and slowly and point and show and all of those good things. And we're going to have call and response where, we read a line and the kids can read a line, or they could join in with us as certain phrases get repeated. They can move physically through the book. So everything that we can do to get them to be engaged in the story is more mindfulness practice. And again, just a little cue, to get them back. That's it. Don't interrupt the story, just a little bit of a cue. Then we review the book, and this is good shared book reading practice. So what did we learn today, right? And we talk about the book, but since we specifically chose a book for its mindfulness, right? We can talk about, so what did brown bear see? And what did polar bear hear? Right? And did you get to breathe with the baby whale? Things like that. So we can review the content. Yeah. But the last R is the one that I think is super interesting, and it comes also from the research. So everything that I'm sharing today, I want everybody to know are research-based practices, both from the mindfulness literature and from the language literacy and shared book reading literature. And what they tell us is that it's not enough to give kids practice in paying attention so that they can experience it and keep feeling it inside, but they also have to learn about it in like what we call a meta process, where we talk about it. So meta is talking about what I'm thinking about, kind of. And so when you're all done with this, ask the kids, how well did you look today? How well did you listen today? Can you rate it? 1, pretty good, 2, awesome. I never give them bad. 1, I was pretty good at listening today. 2, I was awesome. Or looking, you know, and then sometimes I need to reinforce them and say, especially when somebody's mind wandered, well, Crystal, remember when you turned to look at the door because somebody dropped some books outside? And then after that was over, you came back to the story and you paid attention again. I'm so proud of you. So that you have the opportunity to meta process or talk about what it is that you want the kids to be learning and to praise them for what they're demonstrating.
Beautiful. And that reflection piece and conversation creates so much feedback from the group, but also I notice that you're learning from everyone's story that they want to take from it and share. Maybe the perception from little Tommy was not the same as, little Rebecca. So I love that sharing piece. And that for myself, I find that it creates more of a community, but then they often want to play out characters too, right? Where they want to go a little deeper.
Yeah.
They want to be in the book. So
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely love that literacy piece. So is there, is there something you wanted to deliver for our listeners today? Do you have maybe an old book that you want to take part in a couple pages? Do you have a resource that you're like, hey, I absolutely love this? What would you want to kind of say to our listeners for next week?
I think, I gave you a taste, if I can say that. I was just looking to see if I had it, but then I would have to walk away. And I gave you a taste of what the breathing book is going to be about, if you're peaceful and you know it. I think just really what I want to say is that when we're working with kids, kids are naturally present. We don't have to teach them to be present. They are naturally present. And so it's really our responsibility to, 1, enhance it, and 2, name it. And if we do those 2 things, then they get better at it. And we know that the outcome is going to be a child who is growing holistically, physically, socially, emotionally, cognitively, linguistically. And books are the greatest gift that we can give, both literally when you buy presents. Every child that gets born in my life gets books. And just in sharing books.
Beautiful. I love that. I'm very excited for your new book coming out, and any way that we can share and support with that, please let us know. I'm just inspired by, bringing in more literacy into my personal world, where if I'm reading with the children, but I also want to start doing a little bit of it for just myself, right? Getting out of just do and just being. So I'm going to pick up a personal book, and I'm going to chat with you offline to get, a little bit more information on some of that for my own self, for my own personal development. But I just want to say thank you for taking your time out to come and talk with us and share about your upcoming book, and beautiful how you're integrating your R's. And I just love I would say the enrichment of it. It's not just, doing a book reading or doing a book with yoga. It's actually being with that book and having that more of an enriched conversation about it, where I can see as an educator, sometimes it's like getting to the next task, where just being able to sit and be an experience and have that storytelling. And that was the aha, where I'm like, I got to get back into doing my own reading too, right? And connect with that piece again, because it's easy to do, but to be with that piece of literacy is definitely a very important piece. So is there anything else you want to mention to our listeners today before we wrap up?
No, I just want to thank you for inviting me, Crystal. This was really fun, and I love sharing. Because of my background, I might have a different perspective on things. So I hope that I always tell my students, when you walk away today, there needs to be one action plan. So the fact that you have come up with your own action plan is really very exciting for me. And I hope that all of you who are listening found one thing today that you're going to try and do a little differently when you get back to your kids the next time. So stay peaceful and you know it.
Love it. Thank you. Dr. Suzy, it's been a pleasure. And thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you have an amazing day.